Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into a really wild idea. Is your GitHub account secretly sitting on a gold mine of untapped businesses? We're going to cut straight through the hype and figure out if modern AI can realistically take your abandoned, half-finished code and turn it into profitable microservices. Look, we all have that digital graveyard of unfinished code, right? You know exactly the ones I'm talking about. Those projects we aggressively started on a Friday night, hit a massive wall by Sunday, and literally never looked at again. But here's the thing, that unfinished software often contains incredibly valuable business logic. A half-built web scraper or some random scheduling tool you gave up on could easily become a paid REST API, a browser extension, or even a critical internal tool for businesses. So we have to ask, have the economics of reviving this dormant code finally tipped in our favor? The reason this is suddenly a very realistic question is because of the massive claims coming out about the latest AI models. Tools integrating the newest iterations of GPT and Codex are promising a fundamental shift in how we think about software economics. The big pitch here, they claim the heavy lifting, the agonizing process of understanding and refactoring your ancient, messy code can now be entirely outsourced. And to be clear, according to recent developer documentation, we are way beyond simple autocomplete at this point. We are looking at an arsenal of autonomous agents capable of mapping out totally unfamiliar modules, tracing complex request flows, and actually building out features while you sleep. The whole idea is that you can just assign a durable objective to a workspace agent, point it directly at that undocumented spaghetti code you abandoned 3 years ago, and just let it start the cleanup process.
Okay, so how does this actually play out in practice? Well, some fascinating 2025 research points to a pretty brilliant API-first methodology. You essentially treat the AI like it's a junior developer. You start by defining a really clear OpenAPI specification and then have it generate the initial server code. But here is the absolute magic of this approach. You then put the LLM into a continuous feedback loop where it refines its own work based on the execution errors it hits.
Think about what that actually means for a second. The AI isn't just writing code blindly and then giving up the second it breaks. It actually reads its own execution logs and error messages to figure out exactly what went wrong. So instead of you spending hours pulling your hair out trying to remember why a legacy database migration keeps failing, the AI analyzes the logs and just iterates on a fix. It dramatically slashes the time it takes to prototype something that actually functions. All right, but it's time for a reality check, because we need to know if this actually works outside of a controlled lab environment. To figure that out, we can look at recent evaluations of over 140 AI-generated microservices. Researchers tested two very different scenarios. The first is incremental generation, which means forcing the AI to build inside your existing messy legacy codebase. The second is clean state generation, which is letting the AI start completely from scratch based solely on what you want the API to do. So how did it do operating inside existing code? Honestly, surprisingly low. When agents tried to incrementally build on old systems, the unit test pass rates hovered between just 50 to 76%. That highlights a really hard technical truth. Even modern AI struggles massively with your outdated package dependencies, forgotten frameworks, and all those undocumented implicit rules hidden in your old code. But flip the script. When the AI was allowed a clean state generation, working from fresh API contracts, the success rates skyrocketed to an impressive 81 to 98%. This is a massive strategic insight for anyone trying to revive old projects. Don't force the AI to untangle your old spaghetti code. Instead, use the AI to extract the core business logic and then have it rewrite the service completely from scratch using modern, explicit contracts. They also found something, honestly, pretty counterintuitive. Giving the AI less instruction actually yields better results. You think more detail is better, right? Nope. When developers try to micromanage and over-explain their legacy code, it usually just confuses the model or restricts its creative problem-solving. It turns out a simple, minimal prompt actually empowers the agent to navigate unfamiliar code bases much more effectively on its own. And then let's talk about the speed. These AI agents take about 6 to 16 minutes, on average, to generate a single working microservice. I mean, let that sink in for a moment. A task that used to take days of agonizing over 3-year-old logic can now be spun up as a functional, testable REST API in literally the time it takes you to go brew a cup of coffee. Now hold on, don't let that speed fool you into thinking this is an entirely hands-off process. While the AI does generate code with remarkably low complexity, fully autonomous microservice generation just isn't quite here yet.
You absolutely cannot just point an LLM at your GitHub repo, walk away, and expect a flawless SaaS product to magically emerge. Absolute human oversight is required to review diffs, patch security vulnerabilities, and verify that the logic is actually sound. Ultimately, turning those old repos into businesses means you have to face these technical realities head on. The AI is inevitably going to trip over missing documentation, and it will sometimes hallucinate incorrect services. The solo developers who actually succeed at this won't be acting as coders anymore. They're going to act as editors and architects. Your job is to manage the explicit API contracts and guide the AI through the hurdles, rather than expecting some out-of-the-box magic. But let's say you do it. You successfully modernize that code. The barriers to actually monetizing it have literally never been lower. Ecosystems like OpenAI now offer built-in commerce and advertising APIs. Think about it. You don't need a dedicated sales team or a complex payment backend anymore. You can build native product checkouts, run a freemium model, or track ad conversions directly through these developer SDKs. Furthermore, if you want to make your revived project truly competitive, you can easily plug into tools like the GitHub Models REST API. This is where things get super lucrative. You can inject advanced AI capabilities, things like document embeddings or intelligent inference, directly into your newly revived microservice. You're basically taking a basic, dormant data tool and instantly upgrading it into a high-value AI application, entirely without having to build the machine learning infrastructure yourself. So, when we balance out the very real technical headaches of legacy dependencies against the massive commercial potential of AI modernization, the map starts to look incredibly compelling. The digital quarry is literally sitting right there on your hard drive. The only question left to ask yourself is, which piece of forgotten code in your GitHub graveyard are you going to awaken first? Thanks for joining me, Explainer.